Hey gang, it's KR King of D&D Homebrew, talking today about how easy it is to start using Fantasy Grounds as your VTT of choice. And I say that with a smile because, of course, people that know the various VTTs out there consider Fantasy Ground, however powerful, to be complicated to use. Whereas, in fact, I think it's because people go about learning to use it in a way in which they try to learn everything at once, when in fact you only need to learn to play, at least as a player, which is how most of us start off. It's the way you should start off if you're smart with any VTT. What you need to be a player in whatever system you have. That's what I'm going to do here today. You know, one time I did an Owlbear rodeo video, which I still think is a great system to use for a one-shot where nobody is at all familiar with the software. You just get on there and start playing, you know, just for a simple way to run. But if you're going to run a campaign, if you want to go into, you know, one of the big type VTTs, whether Foundry or Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or anyone else, then you're going to have to make a little bit more of a time investment to learn the software to play it effectively, but it offers all sorts of automation features. And this video was inspired for a couple of reasons. The Smiteworks that owns Fantasy Grounds just hired Adam Bradford, who was one of the founders of D&D Beyond. Also ran Demiplane. Now he's their chief development officer. And this is a really great move. And the first thing he did, or they did right after, it was actually a little bit before he got there, was to lower the price. Originally, now again, I say that, but you can play Fantasy Grounds for free. You can get a demo version, and anybody who has the ultimate version, which is what most GMs have, they just get on there and they give you a link to it, and you get on there and you play for free. But in order to be a GM, it was $150. And then you had to buy rule sets for whatever rules you want. It was an investment. I made that investment. I did it 4 years ago. And I really like the software. I don't regret it. But they just lowered that price to $50. For a little while there, it was at $40. I think it's gone back up. But $50, which is what Foundry costs. And, you know, and again, it's not a subscription service. So once you've paid that, you've got it. That's what I liked about it. You know, I paid $150 4 years ago. I've gotten my money's worth in many ways. You know, I was a little like, oh, they lowered the price, but 4 years later, and I want more people to play Fantasy Grounds. Because the final reason that I would recommend this software, and I'm sure all of them have this, but I'm just very familiar with the Fantasy Grounds, they have a tremendous community. They have a really great forum on their website where you can get on there, you can ask questions, and most importantly, you can find games to play. And they have several Discord servers. They have a Fantasy Ground Academy where you can learn to play. They also have Fantasy Ground server there where you can find games. Because here's the thing, the future of role-playing games is digital in that a lot of people don't have groups to play with. I hear this, I have people that comment on my channel, oh, I'm creating this home world. Unfortunately, I have no one to play with in my town. And they don't necessarily want to get on, you know, for a whole host of reasons playing on the internet. They're afraid to run their game on the internet if you're not familiar, which I get it. You need to play one of these VTTs before you become a GM. But that's the future. That's allowing people to play. And I like Fantasy Grounds because I like the people that play it. I like the people that work for them. You'll get a chance if you get on the forums and you start, you know, asking questions, they'll get on there. If you watch their videos, I just like them. I like that community. And I've made some great friends over this. So again, this all kind of culminates in deciding, okay, I think Fantasy Grounds deserves to keep going. I don't know what's happening. I mean, they lowered their price. They're competing maybe with Foundry or whatever, or just their reputation. I'm like, well, I'll do my part. And I will say, I can show you. I'm going to get on the system. I'm going to show you how you download the demo version, how you find games to play. And then when you get on there, how to create, all you need to do is create a character, go through the character wizard. I'll do 5e. And you can start playing. And then you can get into all the bells and whistles and all the automation and all that. But just start with that because it's not that hard. All of us in this day and age have gotten on computer programs and learned to do them. So I'm going to get on here. I'm going to go through that process. So I'll see you on the inside. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is go to the Fantasy Grounds website. Because I want to access, first of all, get a free copy of the software, the demo version, but I also want to access the forums to find places that I can play. You can also they have Discord, they have the, let's see, here's Fantasy Grounds Academy. They also have a Fantasy Grounds Discord server itself, and you'll see here on the Discord server, GM's looking for players. You go here and there's usually games. But I have found the forum on the Fantasy Grounds site to be the best place. That's where I have found my games. So what they're going to want you to do is log in. This is allow you to make comments, which is what you need to do if you want to ask someone if you want to play. And once you do that, you can load for whatever system you want with Windows, Mac, or Linux. You just download the free software. It just says, here's the install. I've already got one on there, so it says web install 1. Wherever that goes to, and then you just double click that and it takes you right through the process. If you've ever downloaded any software, there you go. Creates an icon and you're in. Now you can, and they'll say play with the system. They give you the SRD of 5e and some other software systems when you get the free demo. You can play with those. What I'm going to do is show you just what you need to do in order to start playing. So you go up here to the forums section. You come down to looking for group. This works for both ways, and you will find a list of people looking for groups. Here you've got AD&D, and here's Lost City 5e, let's say, and depending on the time. You click on this, and they will tell you almost everyone uses the ultimate version that runs a game, so that you don't have to have one. You run the demo, they have the ultimate, they can have as many players as they want. It gives you full access to whatever rule system they're using, which I really like. They'll tell you about the game. This is Combat 40, Roleplay 40, Survival Travel, right? They need 5. They give you a time of day of the week, Eastern time zone. Then you're just going to communicate. You're going to reply to that person, and you're going to say, hey, I'm interested in this game. I'd like to be in. And you may have to do this 2 or 3. They fill up or whatever. Typically, they'll go back and forth, see what your experience level is. Let's say you say, I've played 5e a ton. I've never played Fantasy Grounds. Almost always, that's fine. And a lot of times, the people that are running these are not familiar, but it doesn't matter. What you just tell them, I need help on this. The players will help you. I've seen this every time. And then you have other things. Deadlands, if you're interested in learning that system. There's Rollmaster. A lot of 5e. The 5e is what I'm going to use as an example. And as I said, you can go ahead and play with the software all you want. What I'm going to just show you is just what you need to do. Because you go into all the other things and the menus and as they come up, and a lot of the misconceptions about Fantasy Grounds, it's the UI is an issue or whatever, can crop up where they don't need to, okay? So you found a game. You're going to probably play on Discord. You've joined a Discord server. They're going to do it in a chat. There's other ways to do it as well, but that's the way I've always played. And when you bring up Fantasy Grounds, every time it shows you this. They have checked for updates, which I would almost always do. And I'm not going to do that because I've got 2 instances running. So I got the GM's version and this version to show you what it's going to be like when you actually start playing. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to say join a campaign. It gives me a list. And again, the person who set this up is going to give you the name of their campaign and the password, if any. Usually people do use a password, so just anybody can't join. And you'll see KR King D&D Homebrew. You click on that, say start, and it'll tell you, hey, you got to have a password here, or it should. Right, and then I'll enter Homebrew. All right, so what you'll notice here, you've got this character selection. We're going to use this character wizard, but the first thing we want to do is we want to load up the manuals that are being used in this campaign. So we go to our library modules, and you press this activation button. And this will tell you what you need to load to run 5e. Now, here's an interesting little tidbit for you. They've got this SRD data, the basic rules, the unearthed arcana, and the essentials. What I would tell players is you don't need to load those. You don't need to have any conflicting stuff. Just load what I tell you to, right? But other people might just say, just load whatever you want. But the key is you've got the Dungeon Master's Guide for the players. You've got Player's Mordenkainen, the Player's Handbook, the Guide to Monsters for the players, right? It doesn't have as much information. Xanathar and Tasha, okay? That's the rule system that you need in order to build a character, because that's what we're going to do. Once you've got those all loaded up on your system, you're ready to play 5e and ready to build a character. This character selection thing has come up right away. There's no characters here. I'm going to use this character wizard to build my character. All right, and this just takes you right through the process. So the first thing you want to do is what's going to be the race. So what is the race of your character? depending on what the person is using for their system here. Let's say that let's say I just say, you know what, player's handbook only. Okay, although why would you have all those books? But let's just say that, let's just use some of the basic classes. If you click on, let's say you're going to be a dwarf. You click on that dwarf and it tells you things about the dwarf. Again, this is just like right out of the books, right? You don't necessarily need to have that, but you see these, and they talk about the sub-races, what they do. It does give you this information. The hill dwarf, the keen sense. Every time you click on one of those little red boxes, you go into that. Okay. And the same thing, all the different aspects of being a dwarf. But again, you're probably going to know 5e. You're going to know what you want. So what I do is just say, add the item. Now I'm a dwarf, and I have to pick what kind of dwarf. And I will just say a mountain dwarf. Okay. And it gives you all the information on this. What's happened to you. Your ability score has increased. Your strength has increased. That you have dark vision, what that means. All this kind of information, right? Your tool proficiency, you've got to pick that. Whenever you see this exclamation point, that means you've got to pick this. So what is the tool proficiency? I'll say brewer's supply. Okay. And once I've picked everything up here under race, it's got a green check. That means you're done. So now you go over to your class. And again, this is just the players. This is, they have the artificer in here and they have all the other ones from the player's handbook. Let's say that I'm just going to be I'll take barbarian. What the heck? Again, gives you all the information about a barbarian, right? They give you this image that you can have, the classic out of the book. But it has all this information about the things that they have if you want to review that. But since we know the system, I'm just going to add barbarian. So it's already giving me that I have my rage feature, telling me what I can do, 1 minute long, that I have unarmored defense, 10 plus my dexterity. So again, what are we going to potentially... And then I have to select a skill, 2 of them. All right, what do I want? And so I'm just going to go with athletics and survival. Yeah, I'm just picking these kind of. Once it's done, the green check mark is done. Now my abilities. Here are my ability scores. How do you want to determine those? Notice I've already got pluses here based on the choices that I've made, but now I click on this method box. Do I want a dice roll, point buy, or standard array? I'm going to do, let's see, I'll do standard array. And notice how they've selected these for you with a standard array. Your strength is up to here to 15, 14 dex, 15 con, right? The con is really important, giving that +3. They went for a high intelligence. And let's say I want to change one of those. I can just grab this, my little hand here. Whenever you see that, you can grab and put it over there, and it just swaps those out. So I went for wisdom as opposed to the intelligence. And again, that's pretty much standard. But again, you can do dice roll, you can do point buy, you can do whatever you want, those 3 things. Okay, once I've done that, the green check is there. I go to my background. What is the background that you're going to have here? The classic, of course, is Outlander. But since I'm a dwarf, I'm going to pick something else. And I will say, let's see, soldier. How's that? Pick that. Of course, it gives me 2 more skills to select. One is they've got intimidation in there. And I will say, I'll just take perception because I always like to have that in 5e. I already have vehicles proficiency here. I'll say dice set. Military rank, right? I was a soldier. I have rank. And if you have any, if you were a sergeant or something, people in your group, however that works in the system there. All right. Once again, background green. Now equipment. So let's just say I'm going to use the standard rule for barbarians, which is 2d4 times 10. This is where you get your first die roll. You look down here to these dice that are down here. If you grab one of these dice and you throw it over here, nothing happens. If you throw it into this chat box, it tells you what you roll. So you could do 2d4 times 10. That's 70. The other nice thing is when you grab this, if you right-click, it gives you all these different dice. Okay, let's go duels over there because then they don't count. So I had 70 gold to start with. Okay. So now I'm going to start picking things. An explorer's pack, so I'll add that. Okay. Now, how much is that? 10 gold. You can change that to 60. Okay. And then I'm going to pick a weapon of some kind. Let's see here. I'm going to do battle axe. Battle axe, because I'm a dwarf. How much is that? 10 more. So now I'm down to 50. So if I wanted to get armor, like let's say something like scale mail, I'm going to just have a battle axe and scale mail. Do you want a ranged weapon? If you do, maybe you go with something like, leather armor, which doesn't give you that much of an advantage. Maybe studded leather. That's 45. You're only going to have 5 left. You're not going to have enough to buy. So here's the thing. Unless you can borrow money or whatever, you've got to make that decision. So let's say I'm going to be raging. I'm a barbarian. I'm just going to go with scale mail. Add that. Subtract. I now have 0 gold. So I have all my equipment. So I commit to that character. And here it shows you I've got this mountain dwarf soldier. Okay, all the features and everything, right? And then I'm going to say, I got to put my name. So I'm going to say, a dwarven name. Crocus. I don't know. I say save. Now that character has, and it shows you all the stuff that you put in there. Now that character is in the system, right? Now this little right up here is your icon. Double click that. Click it again. It gives you all these options. So I'm a dwarf barbarian. Let's see if they have such a thing. We'll go fantasy. I'm just going to take that. That's now Crocus's image. They have all sorts of other things you can find. You can bring in your own. You can import them, whatever you want to do. Again, I'm just trying to go with you. Just trying to learn the system and play it. And notice these windows are always up. Some people just don't like this. It doesn't bug me, but if you click that off, the window goes off. Again, all these character things on here. I use the character wizards. You can do these manually by dragging them. But again, I'm trying to go with the simplest way to learn this. That was pretty easy. I now have a character. It has my skills, proficiencies. I took athletics, intimidation, perception. It has all the rolls there. If I need to make a perception check, I grab with the little hand and go over here. Perception. Got my +3, you got an 8. You're always just grabbing with the hand whenever you see that hand. That's where you grab. And you make that, the check. I have all my abilities. And again, these little red things, when you click them, a window comes up, tells you what that is. All the stuff that we bought. My inventory, because I've got this Explorer's pack, so that's all there. It's in that pack. And then I've got my battle axe and my scale mail, which is reflected up here in my AC. My unarmored AC, my dex is +2, so that'd be a 12. So it's worth it to have that armor, in my opinion. Your initiative is based on your dex again. If you drag that over and roll, there's your initiative. That's a 16 because it's +2, calculates that for you. Notes are things that you add. If you do ideals and bonds and whatever, you put them all in here, all the information. This is a log of, you could just write stories. Well, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. But again, we're going for simple. We're not going to get clogged up in going over every feature at this point. And then the actions that I can take, right? And basically what that is, I have a battle axe that I can attack with. I have my rage capability that I can use twice per day. These tell you about, your resilience, which means your resistance against saves, so you get the advantage there. And when you make a save, if you roll advantage, click it down here, and I have to make a Constitution save, let's say. Right here, I pick that. It gives me 2 dice automatically when I click that advantage button. Okay, and I got the 18. So that's nice. Stone cunning, just, you know, I can be, I'm proficient in that history skill and W proficiency bonus, all that dwarven stuff, right? All right, so now that's literally what you need to play the game. You've got this character, you've got all your attributes. You're going to just be looking at this character sheet as you start to play. The other thing up here is this combat tracker. Okay, right now there's nothing in the combat tracker. The GM has to put you in the combat tracker. This is my GM screen. I'm just going to move this over. This is what I'm looking at, the GM screen. And I say, oh, there you are in the character sheet. I bring up my combat tracker and I drag you in there. Now you're in. Let's go back over to, now it's on this. This is the player. Now you're on there. Okay. That combat tracker is what you need in terms of being in a battle type situation. So there you have it. Now you've got a character, you're ready to go, you're on the combat tracker, you're ready to start fighting things or just interacting with the world. I'm thinking, I don't know what kind of reaction I'll get to this video, but I can also do combat, what you need to know for that, maps, what you need to know for that, notes, things like that. And again, the automation features and the ability to kind of tweak the system with Fantasy Grounds is just amazing, all contained within the system. So once you get used to that, you start just doing things and finding things. And then what happens is, for me, after I played it a little bit, I went and bought the full-on ultimate version because I wanted to have the ability to have those books and that's what I'm doing. I'm taking my live campaign and I'm moving it over to a Fantasy Ground. I'm going to start running one, I think in Pathfinder, I'm not sure, because now I know all these features. And it's really cool. So again, I encourage you. I don't work for Fantasy Grounds. I don't know them. I mean, I know them on the forum. They don't know who I am. But if you're thinking about it, go through there, get on that forum, find a game to play, and just try it out in the way I think, because I think you'll really enjoy it. And I'd love to hear comments about if you play Fantasy Ground or other systems. If you want to see more videos like this, I could certainly do them. And of course, a shout out to my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to have a new PDF coming this week, kind of another one of my little surprise deals I like to do, and an accompanying video for my Duke supporters, who, of course, also get the PDF. And remember, again, continue to play whatever RPG game you want, in whatever setting you want, and tell somebody else about it.